This is a simple guide to using levelling compound. Now, before you start, you want to make sure your floor is nice and dry. Get rid of all the dust, and if you can vacuum it, that's better. Anything that's potentially going to be hanging on the floor like this, make sure you just get it up and out the way. There you go, look. You can tell I was in the Scouts, can't you? I mean, not time skills. Okay, the first thing that we need to do is prime the floor. So we've got this universal floor primer. I mean, this is the best stuff on the market. I would say that because it's my own product, but I'm going to prime it with this. Now, because it's a porous floor, the first thing I'm going to do is give it a 3-to-1. Dilute this 3-to-1 with water and prime it. And then when that's touch dry, then we'll dilute this again 1-to-1 and give it the top coat. As with everything in life, you've got to do the preparation properly if you want a successful job. Now, it's important that you use a good quality primer. The primer does a number of things. When you're going over a porous floor like this, a concrete floor, it's very dry. And when you put your levelling compound down, the concrete will suck the moisture out of the levelling compound, and that's not good. That means the levelling compound won't set properly. And the other thing is, if the moisture has been sucked out of it, it won't flow properly. You want this to be able to flow to all areas of the floor and level itself. Basically, you're going to get a good solid job with minimum effort. And also, using a primer will reduce the amount of air bubbles that you get up from the concrete floor. Give it time to go touch dry and make sure you get a cup of tea. Okay, this floor's touch dry now. It's not wet. So we can get the next coat on, which is going to be 1 part water to 1 part floor primer. If you're going over a floor that's not porous, then don't water it down, just use it neat. Now, all you're trying to do is give it a good solid coat. You want to try and avoid having any puddles or pooling anywhere of primer. Word of warning, some older buildings didn't have a damp-proof membrane under the floor, so it's important that you get a primer that is moisture tolerant. This one is, and you can get it from my online store. Just head to the link in the description of this video. Okay, I'm going to give that now about 20 minutes to an hour before that's touch dry, and as soon as that's touch dry, we can start putting the smoothing compound down. Okay, tools you're going to need. You're going to need a whisk to mix the stuff with. You're going to need a big bucket to mix up in. You're going to need a gauging bucket. This holds 15 litres of water. Read the instructions or the destructions on the back of the bag. That'll tell you different amounts of different bags, but these take 5 litres of water per bag. So 15 litres, 3 bags we can mix at a time. Some stuff's different. Also, read on the back of the bag, make sure you've got enough to completely cover the floor to the thickness that you want. It's not complicated, all wrote on the back. Now, you want a fast supply of water, and it's better to have somebody mixing it for you rather than doing it on your own, this part. So, we've got a big bucket behind you that you can't see, and that's full to the brim of water. It's like a wheelie bin size bucket, so that when I'm tipping one down and smoothing it out, the lad can get out the water out of the big bucket straight in and be mixing straight away. You want to sort of have a fast process. You don't want to be leaving it whilst you go off and mix, you see. So you want it all to be a continuous process. Spike roller may be necessary if we start getting loads of little air bubbles coming up. Just have it on hand anyway, just in case. This is touch dry, there's no wet bits, so we've got to start putting on the smoothing compound. Open your bags over your bucket because there's always compound in here and it'll go everywhere. Now, you should probably wear a mask at this point. People always tell me in the comments that I should be wearing a mask, but I always say my bank robbing days are over. Joking aside, when you're doing this, if you haven't got a mask, hold your breath. You don't want to breathe that stuff in. If you are a DIYer attempting this job, then chances are you won't have a dedicated whisk. What you can do is get a whisk attachment for the standard drill, and that'll do just the same for you. As you add each bag, scrape around the sides because there'll be dry powder clung to the side, and you don't want that. You want to mix it until there's no lumps whatsoever. Now, you might think this is common sense and simple, but you'd be amazed at how many times people get this wrong, especially me. Don't tip out of the bucket more than you're going to be able to reach over to smooth out at a time.
Does that make sense? If you tip out a massive blob, you're not going to be able to reach over it. Your feet are going to be in it. Also, make sure you start at the opposite side of the room from where the door is. You don't want to work yourself into a corner and then realise that you can't get out without walking through the levelling compound. That said, if you were going to do a massive floor, it might be worth you investing in a set of spikes. They attach to the bottom of your boots, and basically you can walk through the levelling compound raised up on spikes. Wherever you're working, keep an empty bucket with you, with a cloth in it, or maybe a brush. Whenever you're tipping levelling compound out of a bucket, there's going to be drips off the side of it. And when you're going to and from a place where you're mixing, you're going to get drips all over the floor. That applies for your trowel. Anything, any tools that you're using, put them inside a bucket when you're moving around.
Make sure there's no drips off that before you take it outside, okay? Now, you know what you're mixing, don't you? Make full black buckets of 3 bags of grease.
Now, I don't mind so much because this is only a little floor, but as you can see, the whole job involves you being bent over working the material. So if you were doing a full house, you'd end up with backache. Another thing that you can do, you can buy yourself a gauge rake. Now, I personally haven't got one of these, but I have been known to use my speed skim in the past. It does just the same job. The only thing is, with this, the more tools you get out, the more things you get dirty, the more things need washing off. So I just try and use the least amount of tools possible. Now you can see here there's a few bubbles in the mix. That's the way it's been mixed. It's not ideal. So the way we get over that is once it's down, I'll get the spike roller and you just gently roll back and two. And what happens is the spikes penetrate into the self-leveling compound and just give the little air bubbles a way of escaping. And you'll notice as well that I keep switching back and two between calling it self-leveling compound and smoothing compound. And really, it's because I'm trying to teach myself to call it smoothing compound on the videos, because people have the wrong idea and sometimes think they can just tip this stuff on the floor and that's it, job done, it does it itself. And it really doesn't. You do have to work the material and make it smooth out. Now, the spike roller will help with the smoothing out a little bit, but ultimately its primary job is to get rid of air pockets and bubbles and that sort of thing. Now, just be careful when you're using it. Don't go too fast. The last thing you want to do is start flicking levelling compound all over the walls. And finally, the only other thing I can think to tell you is watch out for making a mistake like I'm just about to make in a second. When you're pushing the compound around and you're trying to get it to flow, if you do it a little bit too fast, you can cause it to splash up the wall a little bit. If you do that, make sure you wipe it off. Don't leave it to set. Look at it on the bottom of the brand new door there. So, my dad would have been shouting at me like, how many times do I have to tell you not to do that? Look, and there's more of me bad habits there as well. Using my finger to clean things, that was always a big no-no. And wiping plaster or compound on your pants. Go and get a nice little brush and clean it off with a brush and use your water bucket. All my bad habits are coming out in this video. Don't copy me, okay? Also, if you get yourself a spike roller, see if you can get one that hasn't got a squeak. Now, this is it now. I'm just going to give the floor a good blast over with the spike roller, make sure there's no little air bubbles, or we don't want any pimpling when it's finished, you see. So give it a good go over with that, and then it's just a bit of a clean-up operation, and that's the finished product. So that's it. Quite simple and straightforward, really. Make sure you do the preparation right, and you'll get a nice job.
Work on the trowel all day. Watch on the trowel all night, every day.
Subscribe for free and visit kirkjohnstone.co.uk.